Right, this is batch number 1 after the sonic cleaner. A big difference, as you can see. It's taking most of the paint off the turntable, which is great because I want to clean it. So it does take a lot of paint off. So moving up, this is the second batch that's going to go in. We'll put this lot in. I've given them a bit of a spray with degreaser. I'm not going to put too much in, but they are fairly, well, they're all really dirty. And then we're going to strip that lifter mechanism down. That's fun. Rob's washing line, letting them dry out. They've been blown with an air line, but now they just want to dry really off. That's batch 2, the carousel. I'm just about to put batch 3 in. The beard's gone. Ha! It's coming back. Don't like it like this. I thought I might show you what this does, because you might not, if you know, obviously you know what it does, but all jukeboxes have got one in one form or another. It's called a play meter. It's got all the numbers on the side there. So what happens is every time you play a record, a little lever comes and moves one of these little levers here out one click. So I'll move it out a few clicks. I'll move some of them out. So it would move those out like that, so you can see them just moving out. Okay, so, and on the other side you've got these arms coming out. You can see them sticking up. So when the chap came round every month to take the money out of the jukebox, and he's going to change some records, he didn't know what was playing in that club, which or cafe or pub, whatever it was, and he's no idea which record they like. So he wants to know which ones are earning him money. So the ones that are out, these, when they're right out here, they've been played a lot. So they're staying on because they're earning him money. If you've got a couple that aren't coming out at all, they're not earning anything. So he will take those out. The numbers correspond to the number on there, and he would take that record out, put it in another venue probably, and then before he leaves he would press that button there in the centre. That moves up, releases all the pins there, and you're back to 0. And it's also got a counter in the bottom telling you how many times it's played a record. That's not because he just nosy, it's so that when he changes the needle he can say, oh, it's done another 2,000 plays, I'll change the needle. You don't have to do that at home because you can say, well, that sounds a bit scratchy, I'll change the needle. And you know what's playing on here because it's your jukebox, it's in your house, so you don't really need that at all. But it's nice to have it on, and it's a bit of history. I like to put them on if they're there to make them work, and people find them interesting because they can tell people who come to see the jukebox in the house and tell them all about it and why you can see this and what that bit does, and makes them look all dead knowledgeable like it's doing with me. I haven't a clue really. Okay, so taking that clip off, I'm just going to put the clip back on. That now slides nicely up and down there, and that now moves the way it should, in and out and that way. Lovely. Put the clip back on, done. Worth noting, when you do oil anything on a jukebox, always use machine oil. That is turbine oil. You can use sewing machine oil, which again is machine oil. Don't be using WD-40. There's a reason for that, because WD-40, the 40 stands for the fact that it only lasts 40 days. You don't believe me, do you? Try it. It dries out. So you don't want to be putting that on. And you don't want stuff with 3-in-1, putting PTFE, and they've got paraffin in them. Machine oil, that's it, the best you can buy. So sewing machine oil or Starrett, or this is American, this is Zoom Spout High Side. Again, the best oil, don't skimp on it. And there's batch 4 out of the Sonic. Just waiting up to dry, so we've got most of it now, just got the motor to strip now. So we've got all these parts that they're all nice and clean and shiny, and when I put them all back together I'll explain how they all work to you. Turntable, get the last bits of the paint off and something for new paint to adhere to. Just linish it up a bit. That's where that bit of plastic that I've dyed brown will go on. Get all this paint off. Just roughing the centrepiece up now, the centre dome, the record to go on. Matter about the painting there, because that's going to get covered with the silver centrepiece. So now we need to make that middle bit look gorge, as they say nowadays. I use the word gorgeous, but of course I'm 9 years older than God, if such a person exists. Could put a bit of blue because it's soft aluminium. Come on, spin. Thank you. Washing machine. A little bit of that. And now that'll come up brilliant now with a bit of luck. Come on, what's not to like? Now this is the selector motor. I don't want to put this in the Sonic because it's a freewheeling gear, but it's a sealed gearbox apart from where the shaft goes through, and I can't get any water out once it goes in there, so I'm just going to clean this by hand methodically, toothbrush and cleaning fluid. I don't want to dip it in the thing because I can't dry it. Well, that's half an hour with a toothbrush and some paraffin and oiled it all up again, and that's lovely. A lot of people would say, I don't know why you bother doing that because you don't see the motor, but hey, you can't put something like that back in without cleaning it and checking it, can you? Even if you don't see it, it's underneath. That's a turntable motor. That's another one that I don't want to put in the Sonic because it's a mains motor. I would check the bearing there, see if there's any side play, and there's none at all, and it spins great, so that's a good motor. That's a mains motor, so I've cleaned that up with a toothbrush as well. So those two are done, they can go in the box. Now we're going to strip that. Let's put it on the bench. I thought I'd just put the motor back onto the top plate instead of dropping the screws. Now you notice there is a spacer. Must never forget the spacer. The spacer's there for a reason, a really good reason actually. The reason being that when I tighten that down tight, like that, that's now tight, and that one's tight with the spacer. I've only got another one to do, but you'll notice that the motor is loose, and that's because the motor hangs on 3 of those rubbers. If it was bolted up tight, you would get lots of coming through the turntable, so it just hangs loose. Well, it's not loose, but when you've got a third one and it's even. But these tend to break up and disintegrate or go really hard, and people just don't bother put the spacers in, and they just bolt them up tight, and of course it makes it sound horrible as a jukebox. and they're quite soft rubber. So that's all 3 in. So that's now sitting, the motor's now hanging. It's not flopping about, but you can see it going up and down. It does move. And of course when the turntable goes on, that pulls against the side of the turntable like that, and that wheel, the pulley wheel, drives the turntable round. Right, that's the turntable assembly finished. Put it in the box. Okay, so I put this arm into the play position. That's the play position there. Push that in. Now I want to keep that out there, so I'm just going to put that behind it. I want that pin there. There is a pin holding that together. So now I've got to try and tap that out. Sometimes they come straight out. They're a roll pin, so sometimes they're not. This might be a knot situation. Is it moving? Yeah, it's coming out, no problem. It's coming out the bottom. Keep your finger on the end because there's a spring in there. When that comes out, that's going to pop out when I take this punch out. There we go. That's the roll pin. So now it's held in with the punch. So when I pull the punch out, those two will come apart. That will, oh, it hasn't flown out. It's because it's full of gunk. Yeah, right. Normally they fly out. So, because it's all gunked up, I'm going to knock it out from this end. They only fly out when they're clean and good. So that's your internal gripper. This one will come off. Wow. There's grease in there that has turned to like carbon. It's old grease that's been in there for 60 years. That is grease, by the way. That lump, that hard thing there, that was grease, and it just crumbles. It's just solid. All this has got to come off. People think, oh, why did you take it? Just put a bit of oil in it, it'll be alright. No, it won't. Adding oil to this is like putting fresh oil in your car and leaving the old oil in. Doesn't work. So, weirdly, that's a grey one, that arm, and that's a brown centre. Yeah. I think these are off different machines at some point in its life. Doesn't matter because when it's been in the sonic cleaner it'll take all the paint off anyway, and then we'll be repainting it. So we've got two cogs. I'll turn it around so you can see. So we've got two cogs on this end. I need to take that screw out there. That lever there works the arm that works the play meter, and also how many records you've got playing. As a rule of thumb, that pin there always sticks out that way. Yeah, and you've also got 4 casting marks. They always go to the outside of the casting marks. That one can only go on one way anyway because it's jammed as well. Prise that off. That doesn't want to come off at all. I might have to put heat on this. So we need that centre out. Oh, it's coming out, that's great. Be careful not to hit it with a metal hammer because you won't get that cog back on, because you'll just put a little ridge on that little flat. So if you're going to hit it with anything, hit it with something plastic. A plastic hammer, which I had somewhere but I can't find, or the end of a screwdriver that's plastic. So that cob comes off, it goes onto that piece there, that hooks onto that. Anyway, we'll do that when we put it back together. So we need that right out. It doesn't want to come out because it's all horrible, but it's got to come out. What can I get that out with? Something plastic that'll go down there that I can hit. What can I hit that's of no use to me? My ex-wife? No, probably not. When it's all out, I can explain how this lifter thing works. That is disgusting. All that old grease in there, just solid. Just come out in lumps, that will. It's just horrible. Right. Everything looks alright. Yeah, another bit. So now we need this shaft off. Turn it around again. Those operate the cam switches. That bit operates the tone arm. So if we turn that one round, and that decides whether it's going to turn left or right for the A side and B side. That lever. So we need that pin out now. On Amis, they're the same thing really, but it's just a different size. So we need that pin out of there. Another little roll pin. That lever needs to come off now. So rather than trying to prise it off, I'll do the same as I did with the other one. I'll try and tap that in. Not working. Horrible feeling. I'm going to put some heat on this. It's really, really tight. A little prise, nothing big. That is not moving. We're going to get some heat on it. Go and get the blowtorch. An aluminium casting, so if you get it too hot it will just disintegrate like a jelly. So I'm not going to go mad with it. Starting to smoke, so it might be getting warm enough. Burning the old garbage out. I can feel it's loose. There we go. Simple as. That's what was holding it on, all that black gunge. Right, there's something in here you must not lose. It's real important. They're really hard to find. If you lose it, yeah. It's a spring steel spacing washer and it's really important. That's it. It's a weird thing. Get it up to the camera so you can see it. It's a wobbly looking thing. You see that? Yeah. You mustn't lose that because it keeps that thing tensioned. Otherwise that shaft will move in and out and that will affect the record arm. It affects everything. And it affects the cam switches, Real important thing that. So that's going to get wiped down and go straight into my nut box now. I don't want to lose it. And they're really hard to make even. I've had people ring me and say, have you got one of those spring things? I've lost mine. I have got one, but you're not having it. It's gold dust. It's like saying, have you got any diamond rings you don't want? So that shaft will now just pull out of there. I'm going to show you a standard fault on Rock-Olas, or an inherent fault that isn't on this one, but it's on a lot of them. I've repaired a lot. You get the Rock-Ola, it's in the play position, and you can't get the arm to come back. It's all sealed solid, and you can't get the deck cover off. They're a nightmare. The reason is the motors are so strong, the cam switches weren't set correctly, and the motor goes too far, and each time, and it's got to stop there. That is the stop that cog comes up against. Can you see that? Yeah, that's stop. Which way shall I turn it so you can see it? It's just a pin, it's a casting. Now on AMIs, on AMI machines, it's drilled with a silver, like a stainless steel rod, but this is just the casting. And it just bangs against it, snaps that off, it goes too far, overruns on the cogs, and you can't get it back. And it's a pig of a job to do. You've got to take it off, drill it, tap it out. This one's good, it's not even bent, so that's in good nick. So all that left now is a degrease, get the grease off it. We've also got a fibre washer at this end, which we mustn't lose. The fibre washer goes at the end where it goes up to the centre section there, with the spring washer on the other side where the cog is. She's still a bit warm. In fact, it's red hot. Stupid person. Okay, take that washer off, put that in the thing. Right, I'm going to put them in the degreaser now, get all the thick grease off it, then all this lot's going in the Sonic. We'll see what it looks like when it comes out. Right, I've had a little brush and some paraffin and got all the thick of the grease off. So they're ready to go into the Sonic cleaner now. I'll leave them in there to cook for 20 minutes and we'll come back to them. Look at them bits. Gorgeous. So, paint those up, ready, and then we can rebuild that one. Last thing to do is to strip those two dirty old motors there. And then I can finish then with the Sonic cleaner. So we're going to take those to bits now. In the meantime, I'll just mask those up, hang them up and paint them, and we can do that tomorrow, put them back together tomorrow. Now you can strip two motors at once, but not a great idea because I've got to take those two cogs off, and the small one on the left hand side is the lifter motor, and the bigger one there on the right hand side, that is the carousel motor, and the gearing is different. So I'll do them one at a time. So we need to knock the roll pin out of the cog. It's the same on them both. So I'll only show you one motor, they'll both be the same unless we find anything disturbingly different in the other one. I've just put a socket under there just to hold that, then I'm not bending the shaft. So I'm going to tap that one out of there. Nearly out. There it is. It's not quite out yet. If it's not really the angle you want, you can move the motor, if your motor will move, by twisting the end like that. So now it's dead straight up. That's better. And there's a little roll pin. So I'll put that with the others. and then we try and get that out. So now we need to take these screws out. Need a socket to fit all these and these screws, and we'll take this lot apart now. If I can find a screwdriver that fits. Rock-Ola seem to use all weird sized nuts and flat screws, whereas you do an AMI and everything virtually is cross screwdriver, which are much easier to work with. Now that grease was put in and it's really, you can pull it out in one piece. Look, this was put out of a gun in probably 1960, that's been in there, and it goes really hard. There's no need to put it in because it never gets used. It's just filling that void up, waste of time. All you need is a smear around the actual teeth of the cog. So anybody else who does jukeboxes of sorts always says don't grease it and don't over oil it, because if you over oil it, so we need to knock that out of there now. If you over oil it, the oil runs into the motor and into the brushes, and then you get all sorts of problems with the motor. So I'm going to tap that out of there. I don't want to put heat on this if I can help it because of the nylon cog. I think it's going to go. Yeah, that's going to. Very thin washer on that side as well. We'll clean that up, clean all those teeth out. Right, look at all that grease in there. What a waste of space that is. Doesn't do anything. So I'm taking these screws out now. Take them off this end. But before we pull this cap off, I need to take the brushes out, otherwise I'll smash them all up. These can be a bit of a pain because the plastic, you need to use the biggest screwdriver you can get in. If you use a small one, it just churns the plastic up and then they're ruined. Ideally, just tighten it a smidgen just to break any seal. That's going clockwise, now anti-clockwise it will come out. Yay, that's one. We've got another 3 to go. There's your spring. There's the brush. They've obviously been replaced at some time. Otherwise there would only be teeny short little things. One at the other side. Same thing applies. That's a bit gnarled. That one, somebody else has had the problem before, so I'm just going to try and tighten it a tad. Yeah, break the seal and then it'll come out. There's the brushes. Now we can take this end cap off. Phosphor bronze bearing in there. Now we need to take that plate out that holds the 2 brush holders. That's holding the armature in. You've got some washers on there and they are spacers so that the shaft doesn't move about, so you've got to get them back in the same place. A lot of carbon on the armature on this one. Show you an easy way cleaning that up. Now socket, where's my socket? Like a nut with a socket on the end. With a socket on the end, what am I saying? It's a thread bar with a nut on the end, which is threaded again to take the outer screws. So the special screws, don't lose them at your peril. That will now lift out. The brush holder, we'll chuck that in the Sonic, wants to be spotless. Now that armature will just pull out. Again, don't lose these. That should just come straight out. There we go. It's not that bad inside actually. It's been cleaned before. No, it hasn't. Just hasn't had a lot of life. So this is the lifter motor. It's a bit curved there. Now I don't know if you can see that. That shaft is against something white. It's slightly curved. That should be flat. So a way to flatten that is I'll put that in the drill, in the pillar drill, and I'll put wet and dry on it and basically file that top edge off, because the brushes have been, it's been set wrong. It's been too far back, so the brushes have been rubbing on the edges. They want to be right in the middle really, so I'll put another couple of washers there, move it further down. On an AMI motor, you've got an adjuster there that goes in the end, so that you can put more washers in and adjust the end so you can move it up and down inside. But not on this one, so no point in talking about the one that we haven't got. So we'll just get this chunk of fat out and file it in the bin. Never going to get used. Been there 60 years, so bye. Now I'm not going to put the armature in the Sonic. Just going to give that a wipe down, but all the rest of it I'm going to get spotless. Put a bit degreaser on this lot, get all this, that rest of that fat out. And then that all can go in the Sonic. Now that bottom piece will pop off there. Those are the washers that were stuck to the magnet inside, and there's lots of them. So let's get hold of them. Let's get them all on there. Tell you what we'll do. I'm not going to put them where they were. I'm going to readjust it so it goes further in, so those brushes run better. So I'll just put all those washers there. There is another washer in there, but I can tap this other half of the motor off. That will come off now. You can't get it on wrong. There's a little dink in there, and it goes onto a little lump on the side, so it only fits in one way. I thought there was another washer on there. It's not. It's the brass bearing. There is a bearing in there which you can get out with a circlip. That has got a bearing, but oh, and so is that one. That's not a phosphor bronze. It is a roller bearing. So we'll see what if they're moving good. When we've got it cleaned. Oh, there's that. Oh, the washer. There was one in it after all. There it is. So we'll wash this up to make it right. So this lot's all going to go in the Sonic now. Right, that's in the drill, in the pillar drill. I'm going to take that, even it out a bit, that. Rust off the edge of that last layer. That's good to go. Clean out of the sonic cleaner.
Well, if we'd have done something about it before.
Painted. When that's all dry tomorrow, we can put all that lot together. That's the tone arm, turntable. Right, let's get that last motor in the Sonic. Okay, I put that back in, put the pin back through it, put the bush on, cleaned it, oiled it, and just a smattering of grease around the plastic cog. See if I can do it so you can see what I'm doing. So we'll put that onto there. The cutout goes to the back for the cable, so find the little cutout there and there. So those two will now mate together like so we can bolt those two up. That's the threaded screws. No, it's the long ones. That's right. I've cleaned the nuts and bolts in a spray can cap with some cleaner. I've even got the right spanner here. Nip that up. Put a drop of oil in that bearing. It only goes on one way, 3 holes, but only one way will it fit. That's 2 ways, so this will be the 3rd way. It's always the 3rd way that fits. Right, should go on there. That should spin freely, which it does. Cool. So we've got 3 of those. Put them in. No, before I do that, put the other bush on, the other bearing, or spacer, so it's got metal to metal. I've just forgotten that. And so it's on the table. Okay, 1, 2. As usually happens, you lose a screw, which I've lost. So, great. I need to find another, oh there it is. That's why it wouldn't go in, the coil springs on it. What an Idiot. I'm trying to do it fast so you're not sitting about watching it. I'll just slow down if you get bored, not my problem. I'm going to test these out of the machine. I mean, you can put them in and if they don't work you've got to take them out again, but not the easiest to get out when the Mech's in the machine. So they need 28 volts DC. And depending on which way you put the wires on, it's depending on which way round it goes. So I'm going to put a drop of oil down there into that bottom bearing. There are little holes to oil it afterwards when you get it together. I always clean them out with an airline first. That's one hole there. That feeds the bearing. There's also one there as well that feeds the bearing. But this motor's upside down when it's in the machine because it's the carousel motor. So let's bob that in. I will put a tad on the shaft just so it goes in easy. You're fighting against the magnet now to push this in because it's trying to pull it to the side. Some of these motors and some different model Rock-Olas have got 4 wires going to them because they've got a powered coil. This is a permanent coil that's in here. Permanent magnet, I mean. Right, so now we need the brushish thing on. Obviously that goes there where the cutout is for the wire. Goes over the armature like that, which I've cleaned up in the drill like I did the other one. Put the nuts with the screw in. Ooh, use that one. Nut. If you can see what I'm doing. Just the same as we took it apart really. Just checking that those are directly in the middle of the shaft, and they are now because I've spaced them correctly. They were both not absolutely right. This has got a little pip on it that fits into a little pip there. Where's the pip? There it is. Pip in line. That spins so it's centralised. It's good. And these screw into the back of that little screw that's got the hexagon piece on it that holds the brushes in place. Just nick that up. Now the brushes, these are okay, they've got a curve on them, so put the curve in the same way so they go onto the curve of the armature. You don't want them going wrong because it'll spark like a bugger for a while till it settles itself down. So that one slides in there. Little spring on the top. And the cap. Try not to cross thread those because the plastic, and it's weird plastic, it's very easy to ruin it. You can buy them but they're not cheap. Because somebody's gone to the trouble of tooling up to make them, so obviously they want a return on it. I would. Into the little square it goes. Spring on the top. Hold that in position. Put the cap on. That's a spare pin for the other one. So that's in. That should spin and turn that cog. It does. So now we need to see if it works. Stand by. Okay, so this little unit there, this generates 28, well, any voltage I want, so if I make sure they're not touching. So that's the voltage, and I've set it to 27, 29, 28, 2780. So I'll switch it off, just connect it up. And round she goes. And can I stop it? No, I can't. So that's good. The carousel motor, it only goes round one way, but I can't remember which way around it goes. So I'll just try it the other way around by swapping these wires over. Make sure it goes round the other way as well. Yeah, it's going backwards now. And I can't stop that. Rock-Ola motors are generally really strong. So that one works. So that's the carousel motor sorted. Let's see if this one works. This is the lifter motor. This one does change direction, obviously, because it brings the record out and puts it back. Come on, I can't stop that. Let's see if it goes the other way around. Yeah, really strong and quiet. So, got two good motors now ready to go in, which is great. Right, so now paint's dry, couple of blobs of glue, so we're now going to put that on there. It's going to look bonny. It's going could answer that better than it did. If any glue gets on the paint, I can let it dry and I can get it off with the glue remover without it affecting the paint. So I'm just going to smooth that around a bit. Just stuck it on one of those caps, stop it moving about. So I'm just going to sit with that for a couple of minutes, just let that go down. I think it looks really nice, that. Right. Better than being horrible brown that it was. Another job done. Okay, lifter mechanism. You probably know, but if you don't know, generally when it's all together, that will be through there like that. So when this thing turns, the wheels turn, that will pull those out like so. And then when it turns back, that will go in. That's how the gripper works, by that turning with that shaft there. So that sits in there, pushes it out. That just needs a bit of grease on it. So it runs nice and smooth. Drop of oil on them, on the shaft. Okay, so put that in there, put that there. On the cog with the cutout, that cutout goes onto there. Take that screw out for now. Now the base goes in, drop of oil on it again. Main shaft. So that shaft goes in from there. Can't see the hole, there we go. That's that stop I was talking about that goes into that groove there, that's the stop that breaks. But this one's good. So that's the turn bit. And the last bit opens and closes these. Obviously that groove goes the same way as that one, not like that, it goes like that, so they match up to grip a record. Now when you put this on the other end and put the pin back in, sometimes you can't get the pin all the way through, because even though it's right down the centre, they're not exactly drilled all the way. So before you try hammering the pin in, you need to put a punch in first. Remember I said that'll fly out on its own, that will fly across the room. Those three cutouts there face the same way as that. So if that was facing this way, those would be facing this way. So now we've got to get that lined up with the hole. Make sure that goes all the way through without any problems. Yeah, that's fine. Just for the heck of it. It's a bit tight that, so I'm going to turn that round. Turn that round 180 and see how it goes in that way. That won't go all the way through. It's because that's slightly bent, that's why. So, let's use another one. That's alright. So, to make sure that doesn't go out of line when I'm hammering it, it moves out of the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in from underneath. Should be about there somewhere. There it is. So, if I put that near the edge so that I can allow it to knock that down when I put this pin in. A small hitting stick. That noise was a neon tube that just fell out of this box onto the floor and smashed. And the lesson is, don't put neon tubes in boxes on the edge. Good job I've got another. So when that comes back, you can see how that pin, which is in that position, makes it twist over. When that other lever moves across there, that will now twist it that way. Clever stuff, innit? So that would be I did put that fibre washer on there first, by the way. I don't need to put that on yet, just yet. So now we need to put this one on with the pin sticking out and the 4 moulding marks sticking outwards. That goes onto that flat piece there. Now it can go on any way depending on what position it's in. Whether it's in the grab position, that's in the rest position, and that should line up with that big cutout there. The big cutout should line up with that cutout there. Right, I've cleared the glass up, and the reason that appeared to be jamming was because I was letting that arm go down too far. It was going down there. That was jamming the cog. So when it's in the machine, it would sit on its rest and keep that straight. So just prop that up, then those cogs won't match up. So now that will work. If I keep pushing on that because I haven't put this cog on yet. So when you turn it that way, it will release the record. Other way, grabs the record, carries on, lifts it out, twists it over, puts the record down, which again will be on its rest there, and then he carries on going, reaches the stop, and stops, lets the record play, brings it back into its rest, open the jaws, turn the switch on, carousel will carry on now to the next record. So now we need to put this magic spring on this side. Put this pin in. Again, I'm going to make sure that lines up perfectly. That stops any play that way. Because if you didn't have that spring thing in, this arm, which sits in between that there, and if it's playing a record, if that was moving in and out, that would be moving the arm all over the record. So it just maintains that. That's what that clip's for. So that's not going all the way through that, so I'm going to put it on 180 degrees round. Now it goes all the way through. So again, I'm going to put that underneath before I put the pin in. Yeah, let's move it into a different position, it's going to be easier. There, methinks. Except the arm's in the way, so I'm going to put that back, move the lever across and have that twist that way, so it's out of my way now. Now I can put the pin guide thing through. I'll push it against the side so it's not going to fall out, but it will knock out, or it will fall out into that box just like that. I'll put the pin in. Push my body against it, push against it. So that is ready to go on. That thing there, that little piece of metal, is really important. It hits on the pin on the back of these things there, and it stops the record, so when it comes on it keeps it in the start position, and as soon as the record starts it clears that, then it will allow it to be free. But up to that point it's not free because that's just holding it. If it wasn't there it could just land anywhere on the record, And sometimes so it just comes on, sometimes it lands at the beginning, sometimes it doesn't. It's because that's snapped or got bent. Okay, I've just put this end plate on loosely, it's not permanent, just loosely, so that when we do put this on, it's holding that lifter arm there in that position, then it won't snag the cogs. When it's all back together and in properly, and I need that up out of the way, you see. And the reason I want that up there, because I can't put the carousel in there because that arm's in the way. So that's why I'm putting that on for the time being. I'm not going to bolt that in yet because I want the cam switches on, and they're a bit messy to fit down there when all that's there. You're messing about around it. It's far easier to put the cam switches on before that goes in. Let's do the cam switches.